Aloha, everyone, and welcome back to Living Empowered Today's Reframing Your Mind Coaching Series. We're on series number 9 today. I'm Susan Peters Chesley, of course, your ASD Master Coach, growing in self-acceptance of my own ASD traits just like you. So in this series, we're exploring what cognitive distortions are, how they develop, and their impact on our daily lives. So today's episode focuses on emotional emotional reasoning. Um, Feelings aren't facts, and how to stop overreacting with your feelings. Have you ever felt anxious and thought something must be wrong? I used to do that too. It's called emotional reasoning in action. When we assume our feelings reflect reality, in actuality, they don't. So let's learn how to challenge this today and get a hold of our feelings. All right, so emotional reasoning happens when we believe our emotions provide factual evidence. So if we feel worthless, we assume we are worthless. I'm going to cover that for a little bit, just for a minute. Worthlessness usually comes from your childhood and family of origin, or develops before you're 10 years old when you're young. And once you start to believe that, it's very difficult, if anything, to move beyond that in your adult life. Um, and emotional reasoning really comes into that. If we feel afraid, we assume danger must be present. So, for instance, um, just for us, because it does cover our topics, our children, our support systems, even as adults. So say, for instance, what's been happening in the news lately with the Department of Education closing. Now, if you are a parent of special education children, doesn't matter if they're autistic or not, or a grandparent of said children, um, we worry about the elimination of this department, which since 1978, I believe, was developed to help assist each state in making sure that all American children got a quality education. There was no Department of Education when I was growing up. I graduated in 1977. But I did get Pell Grants, scholarships, and student loans at that time. Our state, Michigan, at that time was well funded. So, you know, they provided those. But Sally Mae, that's where Sally Mae came in. Sally Mae provided those funding systems. It wasn't funded by the government, it was a private entity. So, but now we're worrying about, our children. What kind of education can our children get if we live in a poor state? And that's the reality of it. So, what are we doing about that? How are our feelings? Our feelings are all over the place. We're losing our minds as parents and grandparents of children who need these help. So, but we have to learn to get our feelings together, and we'll talk about how we can do that in a minute. So, but feelings, while important, don't always reflect the reality. So if you've ever been to an anonymous meeting, you know, you've definitely heard that feelings aren't facts. And it's true. We didn't like it, but it's true. And your reactive emotions are there to trigger your overreacting and making poor decisions based on past events that have trained your emotions to be unrealistic. We have to think about what we call triggers as how we're responding to past traumatic events or past events that we have been trained in our families to react to. We can also use this to work on our triggers and even them out. Okay, so it's not just about how you're feeling, it's about working through the things that we hold as real when they're not. So imagine you feel nervous before a social event. Here, everyone will think I'm awkward. The emotion, which is anxiety, convinces you that this thought is true, even though there's no real evidence. Nobody's come out and said it. It's everyone will think. This is also this is mind reading, right? Catastrophizing. All of these different biases that we've been going over, they don't just work together. They don't just work alone. They work together to combine all of our biases and to control our feelings and our emotions and our actions. Okay. So, first of all, everyone, the word everyone is an absolute fallacy. It's a word that we call absolute that will never change, right? It's an absolute fallacy, and that everyone will think negatively of me. It's not true. So, but it is true that maybe some people will, but what other people thinking, we don't have access to. And it is really none of our business what's going on in their minds, especially if it's toxic thoughts about us. It's their business to wrestle with, not ours to try and waste our time and figure out what other people are thinking when we don't have access to what they're thinking. Right? So the challenges and impact of this is this can lead to chronic guilt, stress, emotional, physical, spiritual stress, and a fear of making mistakes, which will make you make more mistakes and very poor decisions. Jumping out of the fire and jumping out of the frying pan into the fire type decisions based on fear of what will or what could happen, and emotions that aren't based in fact. Right? So over time, it creates a cycle of over apologizing. Oh, I'm so sorry. I'm sorry I bumped into you. I have this happen all the time in the grocery store. And if someone else bumps into me, I'm not apologizing to them for them bumping into me. Same thing goes on in your life. You don't apologize for things you have no control or didn't do. And it creates a difficulty of advocating and standing up for yourself when someone is abusing you. So reframing and strategies that we want to use for this, for number one, is the pause and fact check. Ask yourself, is this a fact or just how I feel? If it's something that, you're apologizing for, what evidence do I have that this is my fault? So we want to challenge assumptions by replacing I feel like a failure with I feel whatever your feeling is. This case we're going to use anxious, but that doesn't mean I am a failure. So you want to first find out what the feeling is you are feeling. A lot of us aren't aware of feelings. We know we feel some kind of way. I really hate that term. I really hate that term because you know what? That doesn't explain to anybody what you're feeling. It keeps people wondering, I'm not answering the phone, what they're feeling. And sorry, got to call you back later. Oops, we're doing this again. Use evidence-based thinking. Write down actual evidence for and against your emotional assumption. That's the first thing you do. So next, you want to practice external perspective. And external perspective would focus on analyzing the situation objectively rather than through our own personal emotions. What you're going to do is take yourself outside of the situation. Look at it like you're looking at a movie without your emotions. It might sound something like this. We're going to go back to the closure of the DOE. The closure of the DOE is a major shift that will have widespread consequences. We can think about it in that way, especially for marginalized students, including autistic children. So, while federal protections and funding streams are being disrupted, because they are, we have to trust that advocacy groups and state government agencies and grassroots organizations are going to step in to address the gaps. So, historically, when federal institutions fail, communities often build alternative systems of support. We did in our Black community. That's where the Panthers came in, right? The Black Panthers created the school breakfast, breakfast before school, and then the school lunches. And so then the government stepped in and did the same things too, with pressure from grassroots organizations. So the key now is to monitor developments, stay informed on trustworthy sources, not some of these unknowing creators. Okay. Um, and monitor the developments and identify emerging solutions and participate where possible. So you want to be part of the solution, not a part of the people who are regurgitating problems because of our feelings. Step out of your feelings, think about solutions, and participate where possible in your own community. Go to the PTA meetings, go to the school board meetings, participate and push back and absolutely demand what your children require. This is stepping out of your feelings and focusing on analyzing the situation objectively, right? So, this perspective acknowledges the severity of the situation, but it also considers broader societal responses and the resilience of advocacy networks. So, finally, we always come to self compassion. Self compassion allows space for grief and anger without letting them consume you. It also reminds you that advocacy is a collective effort, not something you have to navigate alone. I'm going to talk about this briefly. Collective efforts have always been a part of collective communities, African American, African, I think Asian, and a few other Black or brown communities. Mostly, the thought that you have to navigate it alone is an individualistic culture, which Europeans are a part of the individualistic cultures, which is where the fallacy of pulling yourself up by your bootstraps come from. We can't do this alone. We have to collectively come together, all races, all genders, all ethnicities, all groups of people, whether you're marginalized or not, and learn to stand up for one another, learn that our feelings aren't facts, and come together for solution-based um, coalitions. And you're not alone in this. There's support if you reach out and ask. And that's something that we who are autistic or neurodiverse rarely do. We have these feelings that people will think this about us or they'll feel that way about us. Screw that, okay? You got to learn to stop giving FXs. I don't want to say bad words, but stop giving a F, okay? And ask for help. Reach out. Um, and if they can't help you, that's okay. Move on to the next one. Keep asking until you find a solution. All right. So by separating your feelings from your facts, we gain a clearer, more balanced perspective. And we're not stressed. We're calmer. It doesn't interrupt our whole day. We're not triggered. We're not having meltdowns. We're acting on fact and taking steps to find solutions. This is in everything in our life. It doesn't just have to be the DOE. It could be the current political climate. It could be in your marriage. It could be in your family. It could be at school. It could be in public. This information will help you in every area of your life to respond and not react. Okay, so if this episode resonates with you, please drop a comment and share your thoughts. Remember to share with other people that you know or on your personal pages. I'd appreciate it. Hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. Hit the notification bell and share with other people the growth that you're experiencing. Don't hide it. Um, be proud of it. And let me know in the comments what's helping you. How is it helping you? And have you downloaded that form yet to challenge your thoughts? If you haven't, now is a great time to do it in the comments at the pinned link on each and every one of these series recordings. And let's get together and do this. So in closing, remember, always, you are not your thoughts. They are just that. Your feelings do not dictate the reality. Identify what you're feeling. And if you have problems identifying feelings, I'm going to do a video on that, on how to identify your feelings and which feelings that you may be having. You know, a lot of us don't know that. So let's support each other through this journey and build each other up in community. Remember, every moment is a chance to see things differently. Just because you think something now doesn't mean it's set in stone, doesn't mean it's reality, doesn't mean you can't change your mind and grow. So grab that daily thought tracker at the link. Practice makes changes daily. So in our final episode coming up, woohoo, we'll discuss reframing and self-compassion, which is the key tool for creating lasting mindset shifts. This morning is just full of mistakes, and I don't care because I'm human, and I want you to feel the same way too. See you there. Aloha.